Welcome back to the Racial Draft Podcast, the podcast that is not too black to hold the shield. I am your host, Michael Ford, joined this week by international superstar, both of on the stage, on the playing field, kneeling on the bridge, but
God damn it.
I said, tell people, hey, tell them, say what's up to the people.
What up? This is TJ Stukes. Known from Squid Game The Challenge Season 1. Played professional basketball all over the world for 19 years. What else? Current college basketball coach, women's coach.
Okay.
Just living life right now, and then just taking one day at a time.
Returning longtime racial draft guest even before the fame. I mean, before this level of fame, But it's great to have you back amongst family where we have fun, we talk our trash, and we change the complexion of the comic book universe one draft pick at a time through the racial draft. Hopefully you can get some of your Squid Game people to listen in and check out the show for the first time. I know we're late into our season 8, but you back and recap,
I
through the
kind of like,
season. Exactly. So, like, just for the benefit of the new listeners, just want to recap what we do, which is different racial delegations, of which there are 10, pick these various heroes and villains from the comic book world, and they try to bring them into the racial and ethnic umbrellas. And we talk about what that might entail in terms of potentially changing them or potentially solidifying them as representatives of those racial groups. And
mhm.
we got a couple of rounds to catch up on. We took a little bit of a hiatus at the early part of the year, so we're just coming back up to speed. If you're following us on the various social media, obviously you can follow everything on racialdraft.com, which is the hub where everything, all of our seasons, all of our past picks. You can search by character. You can see the different ways that they've been racially drafted in the past. You can check out the recent episodes or the most recent episode. You can see our recaps. And most people need photo approvals. What we do, in addition to speaking on the podcast, is we talk about how these picks were received by the people. And we're going to talk about that now as we dive into round 9 of the racial draft. I don't know if you remember the picks from round 9, but we can jump right into it, picking it off. The first pick of round 9 was the black delegation. And the black delegation, they picked a character that has been racially drafted before. That would be Mary Jane Watson.
Ooh.
You might know her as MJ. You might also know her as Zendaya.
Yes, she is part of the Nuclearverse.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, what's your impression of this black delegation draft?
I think Mary Jane has always been black. The way the way she handles Peter Parker, not Spider Man, the way she
Mhm.
handles Peter Parker is like a black girlfriend who
Fair.
shows love through discipline.
Okay. Okay. I can respect that. I can respect that. I mean, as far as I don't think they've always straightened her with enough of the curves to bring her into the fold. I get that, but I mean, definitely, she was a little curve in terms of being able to, like you said, stand by her man while not
Mhm.
being, overly submissive. She always had her own money. She had her own career, but sometimes carrying the boy. I mean, there's one thing. So we know what that's like. Sometimes your girl goes down. Mary Jane did that thing. So
Mhm.
obviously the movies haven't gone super explicit with that. She was Michelle, then she was Michelle Watson Jones. Like they kind of took baby steps towards it. But
Mhm.
I think the time is right for full on Black MJ. And I mean, wouldn't be the first Black MJ, but maybe the hottest of the Black MJs. So go ahead and jump into what the people decided. 50% strongly approve and 50% somewhat approve. And as far as I'm concerned, that's approval that we can wholeheartedly endorse. One thing I should also mention is that one of the things that we changed for this current season is our polls that you can vote on are located on racialdraft.com, and those polls are open for the entire season. Instagram, those polls are also open for the entire season. And then on Threads, they're only 24-hour polls. And then on Twitter, you only have a week. So, you know, if you follow the podcast, if you're going along with us, then you have the opportunity to vote in multiple places, multiple times, over multiple time frames. And go ahead. Again, if you're a first listener and you want to go back through the entire season and make your voices known, now's the time to do it. RacialDraft.com. We'll jump ahead from the first pick from the black delegation to the next pick that I have my issues with, and I'll get into it now. That was the Native American delegation drafted, and this was the character that they had drafted off of their Dynasty roster, but they brought him into the main roster, and it's Alfred Pennyworth. Now, I gotta be honest. I gotta be honest. I have my qualms with a Native American butler, particularly in this climate. Obviously, we have different rules when it comes to Batman, but even still, I feel like I feel like the character of Alfred is best imagined as a British white man who has a history of butlering in his family. And, it gets a little murky if we have him come from a long line of servants, servants as a Native American. So, me personally, I can't rock with that. But what do you think? What do you think, Mr. Stoops?
A Native American Alfred Pennyworth? No,
Yeah,
no.
yeah, it's a no from me, dog. But, you know, obviously, I understand that in terms of just the strategy of how we do our scoring system, this is a character that is all over the place. He's always in Batman media. He's always,
Yeah,
whether it's animated, whether it's live action, whether it's comic books, like they're all, Clifford is doing his thing. So I understand why he's an asset to any delegation. I just think that it poses way too many story problems to have
yeah,
Alfred Pennyworth, particularly as a Native American. I mean, that feels like it's like the movement back, honestly.
yeah.
We can see the culture back, like he came to return to his family and they're like, really? You're gonna be servant to this white man? You're gonna be at his beck and call, you're gonna raise up this little white boy? You know? These are values that we instilled in you? Mm-mm. Nope. So that's why I'm not surprised that it was only a 60% approval rating for, it should have been even lower, for being honest, of a
I'm
Native
surprised.
American
I agree.
Alfred. 40% strongly approve, 20% somewhat approve, and 40%, fully 40% strongly disapprove of Native American Alfred. And listen, whether you agree or disagree, you can go ahead to racialdraft.com and cast your vote as to how you feel about Native American Alfred. We press ahead to pick that's probably well, definitely a lot less controversial than the last one. This is our friends from the Swana, MENA, they're basically Middle Eastern delegation. And they drafted Otto Octavius, Dr. Octopus. And it's a character I think that could definitely benefit from being a person of color. I mean, a lot of what he stands for is he's really smart and he doesn't feel like he gets the respect that he deserves, and he feels like he's got something to prove. He's got a little chip on his shoulder, and there's a bunch of different ethnicities I think that Doc Ock could be with that understanding of the character. What do you think? Uh,
I think that it'll be almost indicative not to pick him for that if he had anything besides European or white, because the intelligence, the due diligence that he always does, he's one of the smartest villains that Spider Man has. So, as that pick, that culture, like
yeah,
almost correlates with that.
yeah, and again, and like I said before, like a lot of his stories, it doesn't happen in every incarnation, but in a lot of his stories, he feels like Norman, gets all this credit that he doesn't get. Norman is not as smart as he is, and often Norman takes his ideas with Oscorp and makes billions off of it, and here it is, Dr. Octopus is like, what the fuck? Why don't I get the love? You know? So,
Yeah.
not to get overly political, we will get political later, but not to get overly political, you know, certain communities, have a lot more of a vote than others in terms of getting their proper response. So, so yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised. I approve of it, and I'm not surprised that the people approved to the 100% approval rating for Middle Eastern Turkish. The reason he's Turkish is based on the fan cast, Doc Ock. And I just jumped ahead to the fan cast. Are you familiar with this actor,
And it's new.
Ennis Esmer? I mean, I don't know if you're googling him right now, but I've seen him in some things, and I definitely think he can pull off the vibe of a highly intelligent but often overlooked genius. He's
What's
played
his name?
similar roles. Esmer,
With glasses, I can see it.
yeah, yeah. So, like I said, I've seen him play misunderstood geniuses that feels like he doesn't get his proper due. And again, another 100% approval rating for the fan cast of Enes Esmer as Middle Eastern or Turkish rather. Uh, so we will continue ahead, with top marks for this. And here's another one that should definitely get top marks because we've already somewhat seen it, and that would be from the multiracial delegation, Miguel O'Hara. I mean, it's right there in the name. He is both a Miguel and an O'Hara.
He's a Colombian Irish.
To celebrate to celebrate both St. Patrick's Day and Cinco de Mayo, although perhaps not in this administration. But the mixed Irish and I believe Mexican, I believe. And I mean, he's been that way from the inception. And obviously, he was brought into most prominence in the Spider-Verse movies, where he was voiced by Oscar Isaac, who himself is of mixed heritage. And they didn't play around. They just stuck with what works. They kept Oscar Isaac as the fan cast, and they kept him in line with that same racial background. And he got 100% approval rating on both 50% and 50% as far as strongly approve and somewhat approve of multiracial Miguel O'Hara. And in terms of the fan cast, 100% approval, with 66.7 strongly approve and 33.3 somewhat approve. And, what else can be said? Now, I guess you could say that Oscar Isaac is getting a little bit older. If they did want to bring him to live action, maybe they'd go a little younger. But as far as where he is kind of lockstep right now, a fraction of time, I could definitely see him doing a good job of playing Miguel O'Hara in live action. So, I got
Yeah,
no issues.
one
What
thing
about
that's
you?
gonna, I like it, but the thing is, I like him as Miguel O'Hara, but I
Mhm.
love him as Moon Knight.
Fair, fair. But remember, this is Sony, so Sony can do their own thing. Like we don't have to take him away from Moon Knight. We can have it is totally separate. We can have a totally
Oh,
separate movie with him.
that
Uh,
boy gonna have to give them weight because they made Miguel O'Hara in the movie top heavy.
true, true. I mean, you can do great things with CGI now.
Yeah, Homelander.
Right. So we move on to a character that this one's gonna be a little tougher to sell, but we'll get into it. Rex Mason, a Metamorpho. He's gonna show up. Who knows in how big of a role in the Superman movie. We might also know him if you were a reader of the Horrifics comic book. He's basically he's got the ability to transmute his body into different elements. Traditionally, he's depicted as a Jewish man, so he's kind of in the Ben Grimm vein. One could argue, but you would say that his ethnicity is not as solidified as Ben Grimm's is. Well, and again, Metamorpho is probably not as well known as the Thing is, but he was drafted by the Southeast Asian delegation, and I don't think that there's a lot. Like I said, I don't think there's a lot in his comic book character to make you say that he couldn't be Asian. But you know, I don't. I also wouldn't say that there's anything that stands out to make you think that he would be improved if he were Asian. So for
Yeah,
me personally, I would skew towards approve, but not strongly approve. Just there's not enough to make me disapprove, but there's also not enough to make me.
yeah. I mean, he's a mar- he's a martial artist and archaeologist and detective. That's like most
Oh
Asian
yeah,
people got big ass jobs.
Oh, okay. All right. We went that way. That would make sense. It's got some martial arts background. Maybe maybe you've put it over the line.
Yeah,
Now, as far as the fan cast, I'm not a fan of the fan cast. I'm just gonna be honest with it. I am a fan of this actor. Um, Juan De. I should have Googled how he was his name. You might know him from. Give me a second. Sorry, The Sympathizer. That was the name of the show. Did you see Sympathizer?
what is it?
The Sympathizer was on HBO about a Vietnamese spy.
Mm,
It had Robert
yep.
Downey Jr. playing like five different roles in it.
I
Did
can.
you did you manage to catch that? Okay, well, he was a really good actor. He played that part very well. I just think that you know, his range, I think his range as a performer would be kind of lost playing a role like um, like Metamorpho, where it's not really about his you know, ability to slip into different personas. It's just he's just I'm not saying he's a meathead because obviously he's a scientist, but he's more of a grouped up fighter than someone that can be a spies per se. Um. So anyway, we got a 100% approval rating for the draft pick, but in terms of the fan cast, we only got a 83% approval rating for the fan cast. Moving on to a character that is definitely having a moment right now. That is and he's being drafted by the white delegation off of their dynasty draft roster. They picked a good time to bring that character in, and that is Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross, aka Red Hulk, aka the MCU's president. Albeit for no spoilers for the movie, but we'll talk about it later. Red Hulk, yes, Thaddeus Ross, one thing that he's been known for throughout his tenure in MCU is spectacularly screwing up and continuing to rise up the ranks despite screwing up. And if that's not the whitest thing, you might as well just call him the Caucasian Hulk. You know what I
Good old
mean? Like his skin might be red, but his privilege stays white.
all
So
day, every day.
Exactly, all day, every day. His skin color's red, but his privilege is white. And the approval rating stays strong. 100% approval rating for him staying a white man. And obviously they kept the Harrison Ford fan cast, and they got 100% approval rating for that as well. No notes to white Thaddeus Ross, Red Hulk, now and forever.
Yeah, like don't even argue that.
Exactly. So moving on to another pick is the South Asian delegation. This one is a little bit more challenging as well, because we're dealing with a character that, for me personally, I think, despite the fact that there are, I'll get right into it. So they selected Guy Gardner, he of the Green Lantern Corps, he of the bowl haircut, he of the extreme dickishness. And I don't know, man. I gotta say, I feel like this is a character that is probably best understood as a white man. Do you agree? Like,
Yeah,
I feel like he's used the hard or N word. Like, if we're keeping it a buck, like Guy Gardner has definitely dropped an R bomb, like a hard R bomb once or
and
twice.
his excuse to be like, I heard it in the song.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, he grew up in Baltimore, you know what I mean? Like, so he was around black people, but maybe don't really fuck with them like that. You know what I mean? Like he's not even friends with John. Like he respects him, but they're not like boys. Like I don't know. There's some sus. There's some sus out there when it comes to Guy
Absolutely,
Gardner, and
absolutely.
that's why it's tough for me personally to rock with a South Asian version of Guy Gardner. Not to say that it's impossible, but I don't know. It's tough for me. Tough for me to call it.
I mean,
What
the
about you?
the bowl cut, they can like. I've seen more bowl cuts from Asians. South, I've seen more bowl cuts from Asians. What else? I don't agree or nor disagree. I'm like, yo, if he like, I feel like people like South Asian people, they are very hard to sympathize with because
Uh,
their culture is difficult. Their culture is excellence, academic excellence.
but that's what I'm saying. That's not Guy Gardner. He's not Guy Gardner.
Not.
He seems like the kind of guy that would be like, hey, well, don't be using all those fancy big words. You know what I mean? Like, it's gonna see you better than me. Like, he's so that guy. You know, he's that guy. I wouldn't say, here's the thing. I wouldn't say he voted for Trump the second time, but I think he voted for Trump the first.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly.
You know what I mean? Like, he's definitely like, you know, like he's definitely a little bit on just want to see what it's all about. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like, he might have said some racist stuff, but maybe yeah, maybe.
Like he was there on January 6th, but he left early. He said, "Yeah, this doesn't feel right."
He just wanted to, he's not saying do your own research kind of guy. Like he didn't take the vaccine. He didn't take the vaccine for sure. You know, so yeah, Guy Gardner. It's a no from me, but apparently the people feel otherwise. They got 83.3% approval rating for South Asian Guy Gardner, which is a lot higher than I would have expected. 6.7 strongly approve, 16.7 somewhat approve, and 16.7 somewhat disapprove.
Yeah.
Now I got to be honest, the fan cast, the actor, I'm not familiar with his work. Suraj Sharma, he doesn't have a bowl cut. I can't imagine him with a bowl cut. He seems like, just based on his pictures, seems like a nice enough guy. He doesn't have that edge, so doesn't necessarily work for me. But
Sharad Sharma, right? As you said,
Suraj Sharma.
AJ. Oh, okay, okay.
So like, I'm not too familiar with his work, but I don't necessarily see him embodying the
Ooh,
Guy Gardner of it all.
he was in. I mean, he was in Life of Pi, and he was in Happy Death Day too.
Did you see either of those?
No.
No. Yeah. So you're not going to be very helpful right here. All right. So anyway, this guy got 87.5% approval rating. So even higher approval rating for the fan cast. I'm going to give people that like the actor, because again, nothing in those two roles suggests that he's playing the kind of character that we expect Guy Gardner to be. But
Mhm.
listeners, if you feel differently, go ahead and, cast your votes on racialdraft.com. Also, I should have mentioned this before, but you can email us at racialdraftpodcast@gmail.com if you have longer form thoughts, and we'll go ahead and read your feedback, read your opinions on the podcast if you have thoughts. So, listen, if you can point to performance of his that suggests that he could really nail the role, then we'll come back and we'll reevaluate things. But right now, like I said, one of my top draft picks in the Hard R sweepstakes, Guy Gardner, and that's probably why I don't see him in the South Asian delegation.
Like
Moving
that.
on from a pick that uh, is outside of the box to a pick that is 100% in the box. And that is Mats Eisenhart, aka Magneto, drafted by the Jewish delegation. I mean, we talked about this before. This is the character that would maybe when he was initially created back in the 60s, he didn't have the Jewish identity, but soon after, they really went hard into his history as a Holocaust survivor, and it made the character iconic.
Mhm.
It would be hard to imagine Magneto in any other way than being informed by his history of having experienced kind of the worst of what humans can do to one another in the 20th century. So
Mhm.
not even in the way, 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 way back past, but in modern times,
Yeah.
seeing, the combination of in his lifetime, seeing the extermination of a people and knowing that the same thing could happen with mutants, and that informing his, I would argue villainous choices. But some of the best kinds of villains are the ones where you sort of understand where they're coming from up until
Mhm.
the point where they go too far.
Yeah.
And that's Magneto to a T. And, you know, again, not to get too political, but, particularly when you're talking about a Jewish villain, someone who is so traumatized by their own history with genocide that they would themselves engage in genocide. I think that's I think it's extremely poignant, particularly in X-Men stories, which are so tied to, um, the struggles of marginalized people, both good and bad, what can take them to the brink. Magneto's a character that, you know, I think he's optimized when he's Jewish and when he's tied to the Holocaust. We can get
Mhm.
into it later about how to, make the timeline work if they want to do X-Men again in MCU. But putting that aside, obviously in the comics, he's been so thoroughly developed as that character in that form with that identity. You know, you couldn't possibly imagine him any other way. And yet, the people only approved 85.7%, which means 0.3% of people disapproved of Jewish Magneto. Who are these people? Who are these people? Yeah, I know. I was shocked. I was shocked and appalled. Now, they also had a fan cast. I don't know if you're familiar with this actor, Jason Isaacs,
Jason Isaac.
with an S. Jason Isaacs. Okay. Well, he's actually going to be on this upcoming season of The White Lotus, which is starting today. So you can see his work if you go to HBO.max or whatever it's called. So yeah, I mean, you've seen him in some things. You can't recall exactly what I've seen him in recently, but yeah, he's a good actor. 94%
Hmm.
approval rating for his fan cast, and he's out there. Like he's a Jewish actor, and a lot of people have fan cast him as Magneto, and I'd be happy with the fan cast for sure. But
I'm looking at his filmography, and I was like, I might have seen him before. He was Lucius in Harry Potter.
oh, see, I've never seen a Harry Potter movie, so I don't. Yeah, remember, I'm not a millennial. So when those books came out, I was an adult. So, but yeah, I hear unfortunately, I hear that the creator is very bad. Well, moving on. Speaking of gender fluid people and people's opinions of gender fluid people, we can go into the Latin delegation, and they drafted Loki or Loki, depending on how you want to put your accent mark. Uh,
Look, yeah, put the little
Lo,
tick of the eye.
yeah, exactly, Loki. And yeah, he was drafted by the Latin delegation. Now we have still not got an explanation from our guy Carlos as to how that's supposed to work. Um, because as we know, he's not only traditionally associated with the Asgardians, who were not in Latin America, but also associated with the frost giants. And gotta say, Latinos not really known for being frosty people. So I just need some explanations, as a famous Latino once said, you got some explaining to do. That was sorry, I should have done that. But
Yeah.
we're deep in the podcast where, you really have to admit to this offensive joke. So, but anyway, I wouldn't say I completely disapprove, but I was leaning towards disapproving just because I really need to know. I want to know how Latino Loki is gonna work. What do you think?
I think Loki as a Hispanic man would be the funniest thing ever.
Mm, so,
I I think because you know how most Latin men are super narcissistic. But now imagine Loki speaking Spanish as fast as a Dominican or Puerto Rican.
no, oh. I mean, points are being made. Points are being made. I mean, I need something more. I just need to know. I need to know how it's gonna play out. Um, but look, I'm in the minority because the people gave it 100% approval rating.
100.
100% approval of Latino Loki. 80% strongly approve. 20% somewhat approve. Again, voters, go on to racialdraft.com if you feel one way or the other. I would still welcome Carlos explaining exactly how Prince of Lies or I mean, I
I'm
just,
still my head around that.
yeah, it's hard. It's a hard thing, it is a hard thing to imagine. We'll leave that for future episodes to really kind of dig into. And that
Yeah.
brings us to the final pick of the round from the Polynesian delegation. And, this is a character that has a lot of room for projection, I guess is the best way of saying it, because this character is an alien, and it's a character that is known for, having some curves to her, so definitely skews towards the people of color, known for not wearing a lot of clothing, and that would be Starfire, Coriander. So as someone who is married to a Polynesian woman, what are your thoughts about Polynesian Starfire? Could you perhaps ask the missus to dress up Starfire for particular reasons?
Hey, listen. If this a Polynesian Starfire makes the most sense. Number one, because of hair, right?
Okay, you're right there.
Number two, the skin color, and then number three, that feisty ass attitude,
Okay, all right.
and then the talk too. If you want to get the real technical, like Polynesian women, they talk very broken English. So this is here, and this is here.
Okay. And I was just gonna say, and the apostrophes.
25 in a sentence.
Yeah, I mean, if you see it, I'm glad, great episode for you to be on the show to sell it. And yeah, 100% approval rating for Polynesian Starfire. You
That's it.
know,
I was up on a 95%.
100%. 57.1 strongly approved and 42.9 somewhat approved, but 100%. So unanimous love for Polynesian Starfire. Even the racists had to respect it, you know?
I'm winning.
So yeah, that was the round. That was the ninth round of the racial draft. Glad to have you chiming in. We don't have to belabor the point. This was the ninth round, and we've got a round before recurrent. So check this space. We'll continue to change the complexion of the comic book universe, one draft pick at a time in the racial draft. We're also going to have a special episode where we talk about Captain America: Brave New World, which came out this weekend. The shield is up for those of you who are watching us on video. Because again, you can subscribe and like on YouTube and follow the channel for things like that. But let's end here, and then we'll reconvene for some more racial draft goodness soon enough. Until next time, all things are possible.